Echo release draws near, and the social media reactions are out. Not the full critics ones, though. We're so confident in our show, we're not going to allow you to hear about it. You can talk about our show, just make sure you do it in under 240 characters. And I know why. Because if you want a summary of the reviews, it is, the pacing is bad, but she's deaf and American, so I liked it. That's what nearly all of them are like. Oh, Choctaw Nation, she can wiggle her fingers a bit. Most of the reviews for this show are more concerned with their own virtue than anything else. Now, admittedly, the one criticism that is very common is the pacing is bad. Although, as Kick the Ladder says, with one leg, the pacing is going to be bad anyway. But as with anything like this, you're probably thinking it's hyperbolic. Perfectly understandable, things are more entertaining that way. But in this case, I wish I was being hyperbolic. I was fortunate enough to see the first 3 episodes of Echo. Alakwa Cox shows the pain, anger, and ambition through non-verbal communication, because she's deaf, you see. Have I told you about how she's deaf? The show's use of ASL is truly fantastic. Looking forward to see how it ends. Nothing about the characters, the plot, the story, the fight scenes. No, what he really likes about it is that she wiggles her fingers for a bit. And look, I know that terminology can be easily misinterpreted. I promise you, though, it's not a double entendre. Although it might be when you see the poster that Marvel is advertising the movie with. Look at that, it looks like some kind of bizarre fetish horror movie. Although I think X-Ray Girl really summed up the poster. But from all these little tiny tweets, you find out Marvel may have been telling a few porcupines along the way. For instance, we got Kevin Feige describing what Echo is really about.
This is a TVMA show. This is an adult show.
There's a lot of talk across all the reviews that this is some kind of dark, gritty, violent, gory series that really deserved its mature rating.
It goes much deeper, much darker in ways that we could only do with a TVMA rating.
Remember, on Disney Plus, you actually have to set your account to mature to even watch it.
The different tonalities that we've been able to do in all of our shows, and this being the darkest one yet.
But then you find out, oh, actually, I wouldn't get too hyped up about the mature rating. Outside of the headshot that you've already seen in the trailer, everyone has already seen this level of violence in Secret Invasion. Having seen Secret Invasion, I wouldn't consider that to be a level of violence.
Have you lost your reptilian-ass mind?
I didn't think Secret Invasion particularly stood out for it among any other property. He even says they have that as the main selling point.
And this being the darkest one yet.
But it definitely isn't anything other than typical Marvel. Oh, and by the way, the first episode is apparently a hatchet job of just Hawkeye's season. As in, most of the episode, like 30 minutes out of the 43, isn't even new footage. They've just hacked together Hawkeye to catch people up about what happened in Hawkeye, because nobody saw Hawkeye. So all this talk about, oh yeah, Echo stands on its own, you don't need to see other series for this, are because they've taken those series and just put them in the show. It's only 5 episodes long. One of them was almost entirely already filmed. I was really disappointed in the 3 episodes I got to see. One was a big hatchet job of Hawkeye scenes and really kills its pacing, although her having one leg really did most of that work. The timeline's all over the place, and apart from the odd action scene, and we've seen what the quality of those action scenes are like, it's a good job he waited there with his face for so long so she could hit him in the face. I tell you what, if he'd resisted, she would have been in trouble. There's very little reason to care about the characters. The Kingpin elements are interesting, but there's nothing that hasn't been done before. And Kingpin, oh, Kingpin. Everyone's praising Kingpin. Don't you want a Kingpin show?
Feels like Wilson Fisk is kind of like the Thanos of this street-level corner of the MCU.
Oh, the reviews more than make up for, this actually isn't a Kingpin show at all. Don't come in expecting Kingpin. Kingpin's barely in the first 3 episodes that everyone saw. Maybe he'll be in the other 2 more.
You kind of hit the nail on the head. I can't say too much.
Echo is very much the Echo show and not the Kingpin Daredevil show, as some would have you believe. Interesting thing to note, most of the Kingpin shots and scenes in the Echo marketing are from episode 4. It seems that episode will be the main Kingpin-focused episode of the series. Oddly sounds like Thanos, does he?
Wilson Fisk is kind of like Thanos.
It also means that what they're marketing the show as doesn't even happen for most of it.
Maya, we're family. No matter what.
Talk about a bait and switch. Outside of the first episode, which is mainly just old Hawkeye scenes, this is all about Maya and her family. If it's going to be that boring, I might end up amputating a leg just to feel something again. It's full of beautiful representation of Americans, which is the most important part of the story. Representation. Hopefully, the show will pick up if they start talking about somebody else who isn't Echo, a character who only has 2 things going for her, and they definitely want you to know it.
I think the thing I'm most excited for you guys to see is Choctaw community and Choctaw culture and all of the ASL.
Yeah, she's American and deaf. What a surprise. That explanation, that reason from her was so impressive. Marvel put it on their own timeline. Peak marketing, ladies and gentlemen. But when you see the costumes that they are actually putting in this show, it's like, oh, right, we're gonna get real stereotypical with this one, are we? I mean, I'm pretty sure if I set this up as marketing, it'd get counted as a hate crime. Well, I mean, I'm sold. I wasn't excited for Echo before, but gee whiz, I am now. Yeah, you tell them.
This production that's really, really badass.
And it's not just the production that's badass. No, it seems to be the key word of the day. The Echo actress herself finds it really important to talk about.
I am so excited for the fans to learn that Maya is a badass character.
Yeah, the fans have to learn that. It's not as if they could have watched any of the fights and made their own mind up. No, it's important that you learn that this character specifically is badass, so that we can highlight the importance of representation.
Even though, you know, she has 2 disabilities. She is deaf and an amputee.
Yeah, she's deaf and an amputee. I bet you've never heard that before. It's not as if it's the only thing anyone ever talks about. And she even knows how farcical that is.
But she can still be a badass. That means if I'm a badass, then anybody can be a badass. Am I right?
If I can be a badass when I can't even hear anyone coming and I've only got one leg, literally anyone can be. Let's get Warwick Davis in the MCU, shall we? I want to see him take down a man literally 5 times his size. He's the perfect height to headbutt him in the groin. I said that as a joke, but now I really want to see it. I saw Echo, and she doesn't speak because she's deaf, you see. She's deaf, and being deaf is fantastic. I mean, she's deaf, an American. Did I tell you she's deaf? She moves her hands around. Fantastic it is. Deaf! Let's just completely ignore talking about the story. The use of ASL is fantastic. Why? Anyone can wiggle their hands around a bit. It's not impressive. You can't even understand it. What's the point? I can't be the only person sitting here thinking this is a TV show with visuals and audio. The main character may be deaf, but I'm not. Can I have some audio, please? And that's not something that I would normally say. I think we can all agree here that representation is the most important thing in the world. So I do understand that to really get the viewer immersed in the experience, to appreciate Echo's point of view, obviously in a TV show you're going to have it without sound. That's just common sense. But as representation is so important, all I'm saying is I've got new exclusive footage of the Daredevil vs. Echo fight. Oh, that was impressive, wasn't it? Important work there for the Virtue. I just hope that Disney doesn't copyright me for it when they put that in season 2. Although one thing I am glad for is that the marketing appreciates what the audience is going to do to this show.
Take your pain. Make it into something useful.
Can't get any entertainment from the show. Take your hurt and your pain and turn it into your own entertainment. Laugh as it burns. It's going to be a fun one. While everyone else is bored, I'm going to be laughing.
Chalk Talk, for our ASL, to our cast, to our crew. I'm so excited for people to see that the result of this collaboration.
It's the Choctaw. They're American, not like all those other Americans that we've also got in the show. Oh, ASL, she's deaf, you know. Have you heard she's deaf? By the way, we've also got some cast they worked on it as well. But by the way, deaf and American. Are you under the impression that if your marketing only says American and deaf, that anyone criticizing it will only be able to criticize those things and you'll just go, bigot? Because it's not going to work. Although I have a feeling you already know what people are going to say about your show because you think it as well. That's why you haven't allowed the reviews to come out before the show releases. Yeah, we can get some peasants on Twitter to agree with this, but we don't trust them with enough words to explain the other things beyond the virtue signaling, because we know they're going to virtue, and that'll definitely take up 240 characters.
Oh, I'm proud of the story and how everything came together.
Finally, an actor actually spoke about the story. I'm not joking, he's the only person I can find talking about it. Everyone else had far more important things to talk about, whether it be the rating or what Echo is signing at us. Apparently, she's deaf, you know. I can't confirm that myself. I mean, she was trying to tell me something, but I haven't been able to translate her sign language yet. I can't speak with my hands. Not properly. I'm not Italian.
In the community that it's made for.
Wait, what community is it made for? Are you going to say the deaf community? Because I don't know if you've noticed, it's not a very big group. Also, it's not the best group to target in your marketing. They're never going to hear about it. But we have heard a lot from the actors by now.
Well, you know, I'm an actor, so I have to service the story that's put in front of me.
And they've always had such high praise for the writing of the show.
I have to do my best to make the story written work.
That I think it's time we dive into the Twitter responses. After watching Echo, I'd be lying if it said it wasn't great to see Vincent Onofrio and Charlie's Daredevil again. They don't play big parts early on, but fans will be pleased. They're barely in the show. I hope that'll satisfy you. Because the rest of it, we're just gonna learn how to grill. The first 3 episodes are pretty cool. A completely new tone with action that's brutal and bloody. Don't get too hyped for the mature rating. The level of violence is the same as Secret Invasion. Make your minds up, mate. Call me crazy, but if we're gonna trust any of the sources, I'd believe this one. Just on the law of averages, I'm more inclined to believe I was really disappointed. Alakwa absolutely rules. Kingpin is terrifying, and the American law is fascinating. You're gonna see that a lot. Lots of talk about representation and heritage. The biggest holdup I have is the pacing. There's lots of virtue, but the story, though, the story's a bit problematic. Oh, yes, I had forgot about this.
Asking if Echo and Kahori both needed to exist within the MCU.
And it's an interesting question, isn't it? Because Hollywood has embraced an idea which is about representation. Yes, people are like Pokemon. Categories are like Pokemon. You've got to collect them all, but you always end up with the problem of what happens once you've got one.
Which is...
Really ask that?
They absolutely did.
If you've got to represent everybody in the world, every category, you can't really afford to have more than one. You have very limited screen space. Get one, ram them into a pot, and sit back as you wallow in the glowing light that can only happen when you have saved the world.
Just wondering if you had a reaction and if you could explain why it's important.
What if it isn't important? Too late now. The journalist has led us up the garden path. We're just gonna have to make up an answer. That's what they're doing here. Why would you need 2? Representation's important, yeah, but we've already done it over there.
Which is...
Really ask that?
They absolutely did, and it was so egregious.
It was so egregious. They absolutely did. I mean, I can't believe it. They had the gall to say that maybe once we've lowered our standards once, everyone else should be carried on merit. The bigots.
I mean, would somebody go up to a white guy and say, like, this is the one perspective for a white story that there is?
Yes. I don't know if you've been living under a rock, love, but that's all that's been happening recently. You live in a racist industry. I don't know what to tell you. Then you get to witness the journalist's main talent, where they literally seed an opinion inside the actor they're talking to. This is what I want you to say. See if I can get you to repeat it back to me. Because he already said this.
It was so egregious.
And immediately she replies.
That's egregious. That's insane that anybody would say that.
It's insane that anyone could think, maybe we need some actors who are hired for their talent. But when you hear her talk about what she thinks is important and why she needs to be an actress.
One talking about colonization and history and features Mohawk cultures and communities.
Really makes you excited for Echo, doesn't it? I can't wait for... Would anyone tell the white guy that he's not allowed in something? Colonization! But it can't be all bad and virtue. There's got to be something positive about the show. Alan from Film Threat. The embargo is listed. Wait until you see how Echo loses her leg. Your mind will be blown by how insanely stupid the writers are. This is Disney Marvel. I've seen Willow. I doubt it.
How do you know where to go?
I was born here.
You're supposed to be a sorceress, not a GPS. Mind you, no matter how low I think things can go, they do have a habit of impressing me, so you need to leave Hollywood. It's impossible, improbable. Retake your high school physics class. The field hockey sequence is shot with a wide-angle lens at its maximum setting. Who is the cinematographer? Bring your barf bags. It's alright, mate, I'm already nauseous from all the virtue signaling. I think at this point, I've got an iron stomach. Echo is an embarrassment. You deserve better. Kingpin has a full ASL translator with him at all times, just in case he runs into Maya. While the rest of the interviews are going, I'd be glad that I couldn't understand her. Why would I carry a translator around with me just to get whined at about colonization?
It was so egregious.
I saw the first 3 episodes, and they're so good. Not just in the tone and violence, but the character depth, emotion, and connection. I have a feeling this is the kind of person who still gets excited when they find a toy at the bottom of a cereal box. The show's unfocused, battling between a street crime thriller and establishing a larger piece of MCU history. I wish I loved it more. You can feel its potential. Mate, everything has potential. Like picking up a camera going, whoa, I can feel there's a $1 billion movie inside this camera. Yeah, only if you do something with it. The only potential it has is what they put on the screen. Echo is a triumph. It's a slow burn drama. That always means boring. And they know it means boring. That's why they're calling it slow burn. Continuously building up, so it's boring forever. When the action comes, it's very well done. We've already proven that's not true. But it's hard to imagine how the series wraps up after episode 3. It better do it quickly. It's only got 2 left. You would have assumed when you're most of the way through a series, you'd at least have an idea how they could reach an ending. Surely it's leading to something. I've seen 3 episodes. I love Kingpin. It's a shame he's not in most of the 3 episodes then, isn't it? Alakwa's a great lead, and the incorporation of family, sign language, and Americans is dynamite. The pacing feels rushed. Is it rushed or boring? Can we please make our minds up, people? This is another example of how Disney plus MCU series have always been crafted as film films disguised as TV shows, which is an incredibly weird way of doing things. It's a TV show, you've got an episode, make a self-contained story within the episode with an overarching plot overall. This isn't complicated. But no, I don't want to make a TV series. I make art. I make movies. I will not lower myself to the TV genre. I appreciate and respect the representation given to Americans. If you're in this for Daredevil and Kingpin, you're going to be disappointed. To be fair, if you go into an Echo show expecting Daredevil, I kind of feel like you deserve to be disappointed. He's a cameo to desperately try and get you to watch, but he's not meant to be the main course. But if you're in this for Echo, she's deaf, don't you know, and a truly compelling clash of her American origins, you're in for a treat. Alakwa does an amazing job showing the complexity of Maya. Yes, you can't hear choppy pacing. The series takes its time to build up Lopez's story. It's boring, while also celebrating deafness. Why on earth would you ever celebrate deafness? It's a horrible thing to have, and nobody wants it. Why would you celebrate having it? I'm so proud that I can't hear. Is the show that bad that it was like, oh, I wish I was deaf. I would love to be deaf so I couldn't hear the show. Maybe after the show's end, we'll all be celebrating deafness. And honoring the Americans with pride. It can feel slow at times. Are you noticing a pattern? Very wise to release it all at once, because they know if they released it weekly, no one would come back because it's boring. At least if it's dumped in one go, maybe people will just sit through it in the desperate hope that the next episode will improve. Don't go in expecting to watch Daredevil, because he's barely in it. This is Echo's unique story, rooted in her heritage. Yes, she's American. It isn't that deep. Alright, not a home run. Pacing seems to be its weak point. You want to temper your expectations. Just finished 3 episodes of Marvel's Echo. Here's my reaction. Badass. Daredevil's in great hands. Oh, and by the way, he went to a special Echo sort of red carpet kind of event. Call me a cynic, but I'm not exactly sure you can be a neutral observer when you've gone to a special red carpet event. The first episode of Echo is one of the most cynical things Marvel Studios has ever released. It opens with spotlight branding, suggesting it's accessible, standalone show, and then spends 30 of the episode's 43 minutes recapping Hawkeye. They were literally like, well, no one saw Hawkeye. This'll save us some money not refilming it. They'll never know. This is a story rooted in indigenous heritage, carried by the powerful performances of Alakwa. It takes some time to get started. Boring! Echo is a bit of a mixed bag. I appreciate attempting to flesh out her heritage, but the story is unfocused. This is the mixed bag of Echo. I love that she's deaf and American, but everything else, you know, like the story, that's bad, so it's mixed. No, those shouldn't be weighted the same. The story isn't as equally as important of which country she was born in. I feel like I'm taking crazy pills. The editing is choppy, the plot isn't interesting, and that makes it mixed. Yeah, the story's ass, the editing's awful, and the plot is trash, but you know, she's American, so overall, kind of average. What? And this is what I mean about the marketing of the show. IGN has done a whole Kingpin behind the scenes scene, when we know from the reactions, he's barely in the first 3 episodes. Maybe he's more in episode 4, but if you're turning up for Kingpin, there's not much of him. And yet everybody knows nobody's interested in Echo. The only person that might get people to watch the show is Kingpin. And they are more than happy to use him in the marketing, more than happy to get special behind-the-scenes videos made for him to advertise the show, just not enough to put him much in the first 3 episodes. No, we will lure you in with Kingpin, lure you in with Daredevil, and then bait and switch you, so you just go to Maya's hometown and talk to her dad about the grilling or something. Oh, what's it like, Dad? Shall we hit some drums for a bit? It's not entertaining, which is why people are calling it boring. And from all I can see, from all the reactions, whether you like it or not really comes down to what do you value. Should you want a good plot, strong characters, and great action? It's probably not for you. But if the idea of having a protagonist who is deaf with one leg, an American, if that really speaks to you, well, Echo is the show for you. And quite frankly, I can't wait for it to release. Because out of 5 episodes, there's gotta be something in them worth talking about. But those are just my thoughts. What are yours? Let me know down in the comments below. Like the video if you like the video, subscribe. More videos like this in the future, and I will see you in the next one. Bye-bye.